Hello, buddy. Welcome back to my interview here at MemberCon.com. We're going to be speaking with Nathan Hangen, and he got my attention because I saw his comment on somebody else's blog. So I went over to his site and took a look at what he was doing. And he's doing a lot of the things that we talk about here at MemberCon. But one of the things that was really interesting to me is that he sells an ebook, but alongside it, he's got a free version that anybody can download that is set up a little bit differently. We're going to talk to him about that today and his whole business, too. So, Nathan, thanks for joining me on the phone today.
No problem. I'm happy to be here.
I'm going to jump right into this, and then we'll get a little background on you in a minute. But you've got an ebook that you sell on your website that you've got a paid one that people can pay for, but then you've got pretty much the same content right below as a link for a free download. Kind of talk about how you made that decision to do both of those.
Sure, absolutely. To be honest, I talk a lot about experimenting on my blog, and that's what this was really just an experiment. Number one, it's not original content. It's a combination of old posts and mixed with some new thoughts. And so I didn't feel right. I wasn't sure how I felt, to be honest, about pricing it. I couldn't come up with a price that I was happy with. So at the same time, I also wanted to test the responsiveness of my audience, see who was there for free stuff, see who was there for me and who might be willing to pay more. And so what I did was I basically created this as a free product, no opt-in required. You know, if you want to come and get it, I paid money, $150 for the design, and I said, come and get it if you want it. But if I also offered more with the premium version. You can get access to my members area. You can talk to me, and I have some premium podcasts there, and just a bunch of stuff. Not a ton, but enough. And so I said, you can come and get that. You can get the premium version for $10. And so I wanted to see how many people would opt for the premium versus the free. And I thought it would give me a good test for how responsive my audience was to what I was doing.
And what did you find out? Did people pay for it?
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't expect a lot, and so I don't really think I got a lot in the beginning, primarily because I didn't really pitch it. And if you look at my blog, even now, it's kind of hard to find it. And that's almost intentional. I didn't want it to be like a launch or anything. But people are paying for it. I think right now we're at about, nothing huge. I think I've got 30 people that have paid for it and are in my members area. I just raised the price to I like the people that are there, and I'd be happy if we didn't have any more. So, obviously a lot of people took the free option, and that's okay.
You're in the military. You're going to be out in a month. You're going to try and do your website full-time. Thanks for your service, by the way. I appreciate that. So where do you make the majority of your revenue then with your blog that you intend to do this full-time after?
That's a great question because, to be honest, it changes every single month. It's kind of weird. I've done a lot of launches, and so let me take it back this way. I have two sets of income. I have the monthly stuff that happens regularly, and then I have the launch stuff. So an example of a monthly income would be like Twitter Rockstar and Facebook Rockstar and consulting that I do, which probably makes about 25% of my income. And then I have things like the Beyond Blogging book and the Beyond Blogging project, which, the Beyond Blogging project was pretty big success. Same with the book. And so that's probably another 50% of my income, I would say, that whole Beyond Blogging thing. And then the other 25% comes from a combination of new projects like Blogger Beats and Rourke Media, but mostly affiliate sales.
Okay, mostly affiliate sales. You've got a lot of different things going on that kind of add a little piece to the pie of your overall income. Do you recommend trying to get a lot of different things out there, or do you find that is kind of hard to manage and you would rather be focused on one thing?
It's super hard to manage, and I don't know if I recommend it. I mean, that approach has gotten me where I am today, and so I can't turn my back on it. I've always been a throw a bunch of stuff on the wall to see what sticks kind of guy, but I think it also leads to a place where you're not willing to stick it out long enough with something, and so you got to walk a fine line. The reason I do so much is because I meet so many awesome people, and I form partnerships, and that's alleviated a lot of that burden. So it's not all just me, but I have a lot of interest, and that's my way of, I guess, of jumping on them all. So I would recommend initially start with something, work your way through finding your voice and your marketing approach, and then you can start testing different things to see what works.
Well, when I first saw the ebook that you were offering for free in addition to the paid version, my first gut reaction was, here's another blogger who's a little bit hesitant to ask people to pay for your content, and yet you've done that. You've done that before, so I'm curious as to why not just go out and sell it? Because the content's of value, even if it's repurposing other stuff. Why? And almost, I guess the question is, it makes me sense that you feel like that it wasn't worth the money in the first place. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, and that's a great question. And to be honest, number one, I don't want to get trapped in this hamster wheel of blogging where I rely on my blog as a platform to create products and sell stuff. I'm much more interested in creating things. Beyond blogging, for instance, was $47, and there's a lot of huge controversy about the pricing of $47 for an ebook, and it's ridiculous. But Beyond Blogging Project opened at $500, and it's going to be $800 when we reopen it. And so I'm not really afraid to ask. I think, and it's not that I don't value the information in that. I think really I wanted to use it as a test. I just wanted to see, number one, if I branded it the way I did, it's claiming your destiny. How would people feel about that? Number two, I told people they could give it away for free as long as they, attribute it back to me. And so I wanted to kind of use it as a grassroots thing. Perhaps looking back, I didn't approach it in the right way, and I should have promoted it more if I was going to do that. But it was a test. It was like, everybody says they're with me, but who's really with me? Even though it's only $10, I knew that would be the differentiator. And to be honest, I found out who my real fans were and who was supporting the business.
That is interesting, and of course, I love tests. We test a ton of things on our membership sites as well, so I totally get that, and that makes a lot of sense. Do you find that, you talked about that controversy with the dollar pricing on $47. I mean, I can't believe people would actually be upset that's that much. I'm assuming it was on because they thought it was too expensive, but I found that the most vocal crowd is the people that complain about it, and the people that are willing to pay just whip out their credit card and buy it. What are your senses there?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you know. Are you familiar with Chris Brogan at all?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, yeah. He promoted it because he's in the book, and we interviewed him for the book. And so his crowd, he doesn't market to his crowd. His crowd it's different. So to them, basically the people who were complaining were the whiners. They complained to him about everything else, and so it's just they weren't going to buy it anyway, and they're miserable, and so they want everybody else to be miserable. $47 is not a lot of money, even for an ebook. I've seen them go for quite a bit more, and so it was hard at first because it was the first time I'd been out in the spotlight that much, and there was a lot of critics. But then I realized, these people weren't my audience anyway, and so it doesn't really matter what they think, and that was a real lesson for me.
Yeah, I've followed Chris. I've known him for a few years here, and my take on that is that whenever you have a blog that for a couple of years or more you've done nothing but just give great content and great blog posts and giving everything away for free, that moment you try to start charging for something, it's so much harder. I think it's much easier if you start out selling something from day one and kind of put that mindset in people's heads so they don't think that this is just freebies all the time.
Yeah, and my pal David Risley talks about this a lot, and he kind of taught me you've got to train your audience to be not only to see offers, but to be receptive to them and to pay attention to them. And so it starts with, I'm not one of those people who believes in just blogging and giving it all away for free, because you see a lot of that. Yeah, you can get 10,000 subscribers pretty quickly if you don't sell anything, but then you're stuck in that hamster wheel. You're not selling anything. You're not making any money, and you're trying to please commenters instead of make customers. And so I'd much rather take the approach where I'm going to start selling right off the bat.
I like that, pleasing commenters rather than selling, but pleasing customers and getting customers. That's exactly That's exactly how I think of it as well. And I've talked about this on MemberCon that we don't have an enormous list because we get a lot of unsubscribes because people, even though we send out a good week's worth of free information before we even make our first pitch, a lot of people unsubscribe at that very first pitch, and that tells me they were never going to buy anything anyway, so I don't want them on the list. I want people on the list that are at least open to thinking about it, and you've probably figured out the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you read my post on Copyblogger on Tuesday, I think it was, but it was basically about be yourself, don't apologize for it, even if you have to be a little bit more than yourself. I'm known as kind of an edgy, over the top, I'll say anything that's on my mind type of guy, because I don't believe in sugarcoating things. And yes, people are unsubscribing. They don't like my empire motif. They think I'm a jerk, whatever. That's fine. If you don't like what I'm saying on my blog, you're probably not going to like me in person, and you're not going to like what I'm selling. So let's just cut to the chase and, call it a day and stop wasting our time.
Sure, and being plain vanilla is not what attracts readers anyway. You can write boring posts that don't really take a side on anything, and you'll find that you'll have a really tough time building an audience that way. So I'm not a believer in controversy for controversy's sake, but certainly don't water down what you have to say just so you don't upset anybody, because you'll never get a following that way, which it sounds like you've done as well.
Yeah, I tried vanilla for about